Poetry Corner. The Poetry Corner. The Poetry Corner. The Poetry Corner.
The Poetry Corner.
The Poetry Corner.
Hey, how y'all doing out there tonight in the Poetry Corner universe, the Let's Talk universe? Here tonight we have spectacular spoken word artist Valerie Lorraine.
Hi, thank you.
I'm gonna let her explain everything, who she is and what she got going on, and recite some of her dope and fresh poetry. The stage is yours.
Oh, well, thank you, sir. Thank you for having me here. This is a wonderful opportunity, and I really appreciate your time and that you're giving me your time. My name is Valerie Lorraine. I'm a poetess. I mostly speak about love and everything that comes with love, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I have written my first book. It is Falling, and it is available on Amazon right now, Kindle and paperback. It's like 246 pages of poetry. So you can head on over there and find that if you'd like. I am very active on Instagram. My handle on Instagram is Valerie Lorraine _poetic author. And I host several shows on that IG platform. I also have a page that I've curated called Origin of Thoughts. It's dedicated to the arts. So there is lots of poetry shows, but there is also shows about music, about just even discussions about relationships. It's a very popular channel. It's relatively new, but it's gaining ground and it's doing a lot. And the beauty is that all of these hosts that are artists have an opportunity to host a show that is something that speaks to them. So, yeah, that's me.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So, what made you get into poetry?
Well, I've written. I'd like to say all my life, but not all my life. I had a big break in between, but I started when I was young, enjoyed writing, and put that aside and did the adult thing and working and kids and all that. And then I went through a really difficult time in my life, and my writing came back to me, and it was very healing and helped me understand a lot of the things that I was going through, and it just became a very important release for me. And then I found a beautiful community on IG and became very saturated in poetry. At the time I was putting out my book, so it was lovely to engage with those people. And they've been very supportive to me. I have another book coming out in July, My Life Untitled. So I'm just working on the final touches to get that one out.
Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, so why don't you let the people out there in the universe understand what you got going on with the IG Live?
Absolutely. So on my own page on Saturday nights, I have a show called Starfield Saturdays. And on Tuesday nights, I have a show on Poets Anonymous Inc., which is quite a big poetry platform. And both of those shows are open mic. So people can either send in their poetry by DM and we read them for them, or they can come up to the mic just like you and I are, and they can talk about what they have going on. And then they can share some of their poetry with us. So, and I, for one, am about building the community, building your community. so that you meet as many people as you can, and enjoy as many genres and cultures and people as you can, because it's always important to learn more about people and experience their poetry and their experiences in their writing.
Okay, that's what's up. That's what's up. Well, we've had you twice on the Poetry Corner.
Yes, you have. Thank you.
You know, let the audience know about that experience about coming on to the show.
It's been a fantastic experience. It's a great show. I've met some new poets. I've been able to bring some people that are in my community to the show, so that they can experience it as well, which has been, they've all really enjoyed it. It's a great time. Such great poetry and wonderful hosts. So,
Thank you.
how can you go wrong? And it's just been a pleasure to not only attend but be asked back.
That's what's up. Appreciate hearing that. We appreciate having you on there too. I mean, even the guests that you had along with yourself, everybody was spitting very, very fantastic poetry. I mean, it was different. You know what I mean? And I don't say different in a bad way. I mean different, different styles, different
Yeah.
forms. It was very entertaining. I mean, it was me taking it in like, wow, like yo, that's dope, that's fly. So yeah, why don't you let the audience out here hear some of your poetry?
Okay.
The
Thank you.
stage is yours.
Oh, thank you. This is a piece. It is called Become That Poem. And there is a nod to my pen name in here. Become that poem. I became the words, watching the cursive swirl, staining white paper, birthing life into ego, momentum of joy, pausing so I could breathe new life, renewed spirit, freshly applied to places where I died. Purposefully, you remained the sinner, the non-fiction novel wrapping me in your pages. I became that fictional poem full of heaven and ink. I lived in each syllable, forever hanging on the excited verse forthcoming, envious of each line I created via past tense happenstance. I became emotion, awareness, eliciting my purpose. I became that poem, pleasantly unaware that I was creating epitaphs. Possibly, I would not have gave so much or engulfed myself so deeply that I could never escape the bound covers. This is where I exist, knowing that my story lies in the deceit of you and the nativity of me. You are bankrupt of loyalty, and I bountifully rich in love. Coins you dropped while pocketing pennies. I prefer to float in the womb of that love poem I became, safely secure from your reach in ballads rich with my essence. Reading past tense references, your willingness to take succulence for granted, assuming angels flutter for your existence. Ye are gods, powerfully you merged war. Love, full of mercy and compassion, has no deed for your beasts. I became that poem where a lure emerged from the innate. You read my soul, my very heart, using for your gains. Little did I know then, I gained too. You served your purpose. You forced my hand to pen what became that poem and everyone after. I know you didn't read to the end, where I wrote her in as a brave heroine, a fierce warrior, a poetess of magical beauty. My pen, my fiction, my poem. I became that poem. I became Valerie Lorraine.
All right, give you your snaps.
Thank you.
Valerie, Valerie,
Yes,
I want to ask you a question.
please do.
I know I'm not on the screen. I just want to ask you a question as a fan of poetry, a supporter of poetry.
Mhm.
How do you feel as a poet to censorship?
Um, I think that there are lines. I don't like to see censorship in any way, but I also don't like to see hate. Um, I believe that there's a lot of goodness in this life, and we go through a lot, and poetry and other forms of writing can help us get through those things. But I don't like to see or hear hate rhetoric. I think that is where I draw a line personally. Um, I know that it's difficult, because once we start creating those lines, especially in the law, they become slippery slopes. But I think that there's something for everyone. I personally don't like erotica, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that erotica should be out there. But there's a line for that as well, right? Like, I wouldn't want to see erotica that slipped into places that were hateful or demeaning to other people. So it's.
Do you think with that, with understanding that you don't want the artist to ever feel suppressed, do you think with that the artist has an obligation to really in their writing be thought provoking, and at the same time be respectful, like you said?
Well, I believe that we have a responsibility to be positive in this world. I know everybody doesn't feel like that, so but I mean, we are what we put out there. We become what we want to become, and if we speak in forms of hate or anger, then that's what we are going to become. So I just feel like if an artist has something to say, their audience is going to come to them.
Okay.
So, I mean, if somebody doesn't appreciate love poetry, they're not going to gravitate to somebody who does love poetry. Just like if I don't appreciate erotica, I like sensual poetry, but if I don't appreciate erotica, I'm not going to gravitate to artists who that is their mainstream focus in their writing.
Have you ever as a host of your own show and explaining to a poet your strength is love poetry, have you ever been in a situation where that poet, even though you explain to them, they don't understand between love poetry and erotic poetry, and then they come out with erotic poetry, and you sitting there with your mouth open like, I meant love poetry, not erotic poetry.
Um, I've had people come on and share erotic poetry, and there are poets who I know that they have a multitude of styles of poetry, and I have to remind them, like, sorry, this show, we don't do that. But I was sent a poem one time, and they're cold reads, and it's very quick, flowing, and I kind of scanned it, and I thought, okay, this seems sensual, and as I got more into it, it was blatantly erotic, and I mean, it was worse off because I was the one reading it as opposed to listening to somebody else. So,
Yeah.
I was very uncomfortable, and I just apologized, and I said, I'm just so sorry. Like, I'm not going to change your poetry. It's your work. Like, I'm not going to skip words, but I'm also not going to say it. And I greatly apologize. It doesn't mean that I don't respect your work. It just means that, like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
It just was too uncomfortable for me.
Yeah. Truly understandable. Sometimes that oh wow moment will get you like, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Even though you could even center a topic around an issue. Like I said, you always want, for me, that's not a person that's not a poet, you always want to always give them that poetic freedom, that artistic freedom to just go. And I always ask the poets that come on the show about, is poetry art? Art, does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? And then when I get to the censoring question, a lot of people always be like, they don't believe in censorship.
Mm.
because in America we got freedom of speech. However, freedom of speech doesn't change from freedom of consequence. Every action that we have, and this is where I think that a lot of us get confused, is that
Right.
we think we can say whatever we want to say,
Right.
and that historically has never been over the case, and that really isn't the case legally, because just because you said something, you still may have to deal with the consequences for what you said.
It's true. And I don't think that stops at censorship. I think that every time that we have a conversation, especially a serious conversation with somebody, whether they're a friend, a family member, or an acquaintance, um, our words can be twisted, but our words can come out exactly how they intended, and they can sting somebody, and sometimes even when we don't mean them to. But
Yeah,
so I think that in general, I mean, we censor ourselves often when we go to work, when we speak to coworkers, when we speak to, people who we
yeah.
don't know that well. Like, we are always in a form of censorship, um, and
And
sometimes that can be a
then we
good
get on
form.
then we get on platforms that we don't own, and we really think like we own them. Oh, why they take my stuff down? And it's like, most of these platforms, they will give you the rules, and they do tell you the
They do.
guidelines.
They do.
And if you're gonna do multiple platform stuff, you have to know multiple platforms
Guidelines.
rules and conditions. And it's like,
They
you
do.
know, don't get upset
No.
when something happens. You decided to play by the rules, so
And far too many people, and I've been guilty of this as well, far too many people, they come on and they just hit like, okay, 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 and sign up, and they don't stop and look. I mean, some of the platforms that you go on, they own everything that you post.
yeah.
Period,
And
point
they, and they
blank.
told you
Own it.
that. Yeah,
They tell you that. They tell you that clear off. Like, if you're going to post something, we now own it, right down to your images. And
yeah.
I mean, just because they haven't used it, and nobody's come out saying like, oh, they used my stuff. Well, okay, so they didn't use it, so nobody's complaining about it, but you signed up for it when you joined.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
you know
Yep. King,
okay.
I apologize for that, King.
Nah,
No
that's cool. You know what I'm
question.
saying? We here. You know what I mean? Well, Valerie, I would like to hear another poem. You know what I mean? I
Okay.
want to entertain the audience, people in the chat with your poetry. You know what I mean?
Okay, let me just grab a piece here. I'd like to read this piece, but here we go. This piece is called Synesthesia. Synesthesia is it's when the mind sees colors, tastes colors, feels in color. So it's quite an interesting nuance of the brain. I awoke to the sound of dawn crackling. Synesthesia opened my heart, the blush of pink clouding the surrounding echoes. I will be there at sunset as the whisper of dusk enters. I have found a new love, dark cresting the explosion of the starless night with no moon. My awe shivers as the boom of ice slithers down an Olympic blue mountain shelf, becoming the blame for the resounding avalanche. Slate skin, yellow corn husk voice, encrypted hickory eyes sprouting with wheat. My love is the new black. The unexpected hues become deafening.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know you was into that, but that was nice. I like that.
Thank
You
you.
have a you have a very nice cadence and flow to the way you recite your poetry.
Oh, thank you.
Do you define a method behind it, or do you feel like you have a name for it?
I don't have a name for it. All I can say is that I have a lot of practice reading poetry um, over the last year, and so just like anything that anybody does, the more you do it, um, the better that you get at it. So I still
Okay.
have a long way to go, but I guess I can hit it sometimes.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
So how do you feel about your poetry? Do you feel like I got that flavor?
Um, I enjoy
Mhm.
my poetry. I enjoy writing, and I love to see the progression in my work. From where I started off, my first book is very much um, really the birth of a lot of my writing,
Right.
and it tells an emotional story. I was going through a lot at the time, and I penned that, and that whole book was a situation of learning.
Mm.
So it was right down from learning myself, learning a style of poetry that I was writing,
Okay.
learning how I wanted to progress. Even getting the book out there was, a challenge, and learning how all the nuances of how to do this and that and the other to actually get through it. So,
Right.
but my poetry now it's grown, and it's taken on some new tones and depth and more wordplay, and I'm proud of it.
Okay.
And in a couple of years, I'd love to be even more proud of where I am then.
That's what's up. I know me myself, doing like book after book after
Hmm.
years since starting since 2017. I've seen a lot of growth, the elevation points, and even when I read some of it, it's like because I haven't read it in so long, so it's like,
Hmm.
wow, like, and to see here in 2022, it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. Well,
it's
I
like,
mean, like as I said, it's like whatever you do, if you're consistent with it,
right,
you have no choice but to get better, because
exactly,
um, you've afforded yourself that time to consistently work at it, and you can't not get better. And there are,
yeah,
of course, other things that you can do to get better. Poetry prompts, um, trying to write. I think I was involved. Well, I know I was involved in some prompts, but I think that they were very beneficial. These prompts that say like, use this prompt, write it in 30 words, 20 words, 15 words. Like
right,
those are amazing, because you start to learn what words you can really do without, to make these little micro poems. And there's other workshops that are around, or prompts that you may just think that you're writing to something fun, or a prompt that speaks to you, but if there's rules around how to word it,
yeah,
it's really stretching you as a poet, and getting you to practice your writing in a different way. And while you may never do it again because you didn't enjoy it, it structures your brain to think differently subconsciously.
got you. Well, I appreciate that. Well, I'm gonna take you back to a time of 2020 for myself. So I have a poem here called "Take Five."
Okay.
So this is written along the pandemic when it first arrived on the scene. So it goes like this: My dreams manifest through the reality of abundance, practice oneness along with those who really want this.
Mm.
Mindset of those pros that show the better living, hard driven, accomplishing missions without tripping. Only setbacks are traps laid down by off thinking. Recalibrate, initiate the power while you're singing. Heartfelt moments, let the tunes brighten your aura. Uncomfortable heat horror, have you searching for a sauna back to where you want to be, relaxing, building energy, sharpen up your sensory, excuse the blind enemy. A lot of times was lost can find a line to have them shine. As we rewind, start fresh and exploit ways to grind. King Atterbury.
Mm,
Thank you.
that was great. A lot of great lines. I love the start of it too.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, just wanted to flash you back to like 2020. That was
2020, yeah.
yeah,
A great
2020.
year, right?
Well,
Unforgettable one.
vision or division. No, but
Yeah,
you know, I would like you to let the audience know about because I you had me co-host with you
I
on
did.
your platform. and just the experience of reading other people's poetry, and
Oh, yeah.
having people come on. Like, can you explain to the audience out there, like, what
Sure.
in
Yeah.
particular that's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So that particular page is called it's Poets Anonymous Inc. It's quite a large poetry platform on IG, and it's not mine. I'm just a host there on Tuesday nights, and it's so beautiful to read other people's poetry. It's an honor and a privilege that they would like you to read their poetry. I take it very seriously, and I met so many poets. And some poets, I've been reading them for quite some time now. And even though there's some poets who they're always in the room, they're always supportive, but I've never seen them or heard them on screen. That's just not who they are. And I've read them so often that I get a feel for their work, like the
Right.
cadence, their tone. And so I really appreciate reading them because I have like a kinship, maybe is the right word for their poetry. But it's just beautiful to meet so many different poets and hear their perspective in their work, and just appreciate everyone's uniqueness and the way that they wind words, the message that they have to bring across. And line envy is real. A lot of times, it's so exciting to read their poetry, and it's like, man, I wish I wrote that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my experience being on there reading other people's poetry, I was just like, wow. I was like, trying to read it and figure out the cadence
Yeah.
was kind of an experience for me. So, and hear some people say, "Oh, you did good, thank you." And I was just like, "Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't think I did too good," but they're the author of it, so if they say yay, I'm like, okay. So
And that's the one thing in particular in IG. I know there's lots of other platforms out there, but I'm very well versed with IG. And Instagram, the poetry community that I run with, they're just so kind,
yes,
and they understand that they're sending a piece of work that you've never read before, that you're going through a lot of people's work. It's a cold read, and they're just so generous. There's times when we've tripped up as hosts, and tripped up enough that you have to start again because right, or whatever that looks like, and they're still so generous. They're
true.
just they're appreciative of your time and that you considered their work. And the shows that I do, we really love to honor and respect the poet, and after just have some kind words about their work and what we liked about it, and
Right,
maybe some lines or the structure that hit us. We're not professors, so we're just giving our honest feedback of what we enjoyed, and the community loves it. And the beautiful thing too is that the community sits in the comments, and they are feeding back some of the lines that they enjoyed, what
yeah,
struck them, and they're giving the flowers and the snaps in the comments. And
right.
it's just such a beautiful place to be. I enjoy it so much. And there's times when I've gone into those shows, with my personal life behind me, and I'm like, oh, it's not the greatest night for me to be doing this, but I have this commitment, and it's just so joyful, and the
Well,
poetry's so beautiful that and it doesn't take long for me to feel much better.
right. Well, I had a beautiful experience. So I mean,
It
I
is
was just like, wow. I said, yo, this is dope. This is
it is
wow. I like this one. I mean, something I
it
feel like I could
is
take on. I
I
mean, but
know. Well, we're gonna have you back soon, that's for sure, because
well,
it
I
was lots of
appreciate
fun.
it.
And the other thing too is that the community really likes meeting new people,
Yeah,
right? And usually somebody who's new to our community,
hmm,
they probably established somewhere else, and that when they come on the show, their following community will follow them into the room. And so we meet new poets, whether they just stay in the comments and have a
right,
discussion, or whether they decide to send a DM, or whether they decide to come up on screen and spit their poetry. Regardless, we enjoy them so much, and just love getting to meet the new poets and build our community. It is a
That's
beautiful
what's up.
experience.
Well,
I know that
no,
they enjoyed meeting you and that you made lots of met
yeah,
lots of people.
true indeed. They've been hitting me back and forth. I'm like, wow. I'm like, yo, that's what's up, showing the love and
Yeah,
expressing it. But
exactly.
I'm gonna nag you for another poem
Oh, okay. Well, you know I'm good
too.
for it. Um, I know this piece has a title, but it's not on my iPad as titled, so I'll just jump right into it. I marinated myself in the beauty of your spices. The aroma of you saturated my senses until it settled in my brain, so memories evoked easily as I caught you in the air I breathe in. You are there in my thoughts, yesteryear, yesterday, and hopeful for tomorrow. The air is warm and damp from sea spray. As you walked hand in hand with me, our footprints temporary in the wet sands, water pulling proof of our path back into the rolling waves. I long for your hand to reach for mine again, as my hair absorbs the sea salt carried on the blowing breeze. Time cannot hold you back from me. It can only distance us along the horizon. Painfully, I wait for you and your reaching hand. The ocean has been my favorite place, where you etched our initials in a large dead wood, now bleached from the sun. I still wear the beach glass you gave me, harnessed in wire by your strong hands, and laced with leather. You tied it around my neck.
Mm.
My fingers play along the soft edges. It won't cut my hand, but it jaggedly daggers into my heart, just laying near its rhythmic beat. The glistening sun lays bronze on my skin as it plays with reflective light over the washing blue waters. My feet sink deeper. I push them down hard in a desperate attempt to let the earth know I will not give in. I will not give in. I will wait because I know you are there on the other side of that ocean, calling for me on tidal winds that cast your voice in whispers. So I will come every sunset when the tide is out and hope to see your footprints pathing their way back to me.
All right, all right.
Thank you.
Well, being that I'm mentally in a 2020 zone,
All right, here we go.
I have a nice poem to follow up before we take off on that.
Okay.
This poem is called, and by the way, I love that poem. Like I said, just
Oh,
have a
thank
way
you.
with the words and how they just it's like a melody. You know what I mean?
Thank
I
you.
love it though. So this poem is called Only Day I Know. Under what seem invisible but unknown to the naked eye is the feeling of an emergent vibe that is about to rise high. Why tiptoe around when you could step and move forward? For when time call upon us, sing a song without a chorus. Bring harmony to a melody as in the universe, what are you telling me? Through my dreams, I see the imagery of who sing willingly. To coincide with my odd, only to be even with the God. Let the situation drive in the direction of a park. Moves made on those days, there's a cool way to display. One can only relate without a cliche plan of escape. Doorway to a finding only matching keys can access. My verbal matter active, attracted to your axis. Checking out your dimensions, let me mention if you listen. I have lines to a poem written for you if you're missing. What you haven't had in a long time, that real fine peace of mind, can I bring to you, rays of sunshine and illuminate just one time. King
Woo,
Atterbury. Thank you.
brilliant. What a great write.
Thank you. Appreciate that. 2020? No.
Yeah, I love
2020
how you
long
got all
gone?
the time stuff in there too.
No.
With the
But hey, I want to say thank you for coming on tonight and
Mm.
letting the world, the Poetry Corner universe and the Let's Talk universe, the channel, and all your fans out there, our fans, know who you are, what you got going on, and where they can find you at. And it's been a beautiful night. I appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you, Joelle and Quinten. The pleasure is all mine, and the gratitude is mine to give to you. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to come and spend time with you.
All right. Do you have any last words for the chat and the audience out there?
Oh, I appreciate you watching and your comments. And if you're a writer, never stop. Just keep on writing and enjoying, and find those people who you connect with, and just enjoy, and just always build on your craft. Believe in yourself.
True indeed. True indeed. Well,
With that peace, love, and poetry. The Poetry Corner.